Happy fall, everybody. Marie Louise Ludwig here with one of my absolute favorite fall recipes. And what's great about this is root vegetable season. So if you go to any of your local markets, you're going to find, actually butternut squash isn't really a root, but you'll find all kinds of potatoes and onions and carrots and things that grow underground, and they make for really good soup. So today I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to make roasted butternut squash soup that also has apples and tons of vegetables. Actually, your family will never know how many vegetables are in the soup. So here we go. We're starting with a butternut squash, and you want to get one that's nice and firm to it. And the great thing about a butternut squash is, if you've never eaten one before, is all the seeds are right down here in the bottom. So everything from this little belly up is really good flesh. So what we're going to do is we're just going to peel it. And I have a peeler here, and I actually have a peeler that has little teeth on it. I like to call this my piranha peeler because you really need to get into the tough skin to get that off of your butternut squash. So you're going to peel it all the way around just like this. You see it gets to be some nice little shades of green in there. Peel everything off of it. And notice I'm kind of not going for the bottom. Now there's a little bit of meat in the ball, but today we're just going to go for this top part. So peel it all off, and it should look just like this. Now we'll cut the top off, get a nice sharp knife, take that top off, and take that bottom off, just like this. And you'll see what I'm talking about. All the seeds are right there. Now if you're really adventurous, you can always go ahead and core it and cut it up, because I'm kind of wasting a little bit today, which I don't like to do. So for now, everything is going to go into my compost bucket, because we're here on the farm and we do not waste any scraps. This goes right back into the ground, into the earth, and will make nice feed for next year's plants. Okay, so we've got that cleaned up, and now what we're going to do is cut it. So the thing about roasting vegetables, we're going into an oven, so preheat your oven to 425 degrees. It's really important that you kind of cut everything consistently, because you don't want huge chunks of one thing and small chunks of another, because you'll find that the things you cut up smaller will start to burn. So cut them up into pieces, into chunks, and I'd say sort of like this size right here. Just like this, if you will. Cut them into chunks. Everything's going to be about this size is what you're going to need. And then as I'm cutting everything up, I put it into a bowl. And more than just butternut squash, it has this has such a nice mellow flavor to it. And I'm using a lot of vegetables. Now you don't have to put them in the oven and roast them, but can I tell you, if you've never roasted vegetables, things like broccoli and cauliflower and kale, and of course butternut squash and onions and carrots, everything tastes so much better when it has been roasted in the oven. Everything gets a chance to caramelize and get nice and soft, and it just imparts such a wonderful flavor. So we're going to get all of this cut up into our chunks like this, and then we are going to go for everything that's going to go into the soup. Okay, so we've got all of our squash is done right here. Now for our apples. I like to leave the skin on my apples, so wash them well, but just remember, when you do that, we are ultimately going to be using an immersion blender. You will find little bits of skin. It adds some really great fiber and a little bit of extra, I'd say, crunch to the soup. So if you don't like that, then make sure you peel your apples. But for today, I am not going to peel them. So we're going to cut up our apples, and I'm going to use probably 2 apples, and yes, we are going to roast the apples in the oven. So go ahead, take your paring knife and core them. If you have an apple peeler and corer, that's great as well. That makes the job quicker for you. So just go ahead and cut these down. And again, make sure you cut them in the same size that we're doing the squash, so everything cooks evenly. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these up into thirds, just to make sure we're shooting for the same size here. So cut them up. Now if you have a family who doesn't like vegetables and fruits, I could raise my hand for that one, because I have kids who turn their nose up at anything. However, they happen to love this soup, and when you see how many vegetables we get on this pan, you will not believe it. So let's just go ahead and cut everything up. We are going to do 3 apples. We are going to do probably 2 to 3 yellow onions we're going to cut up. We're going to add some carrots. Go ahead and peel them if you want to, or I just chop those into the same size chunks. And our celery. Look at all those vegetables. Now, do you think if you boiled these and put these on a table in a bowl that your family would eat them? I don't think so, but wait till you see what we're gonna do with them. So we're gonna put everything onto a sheet tray, just like this, and the beautiful colors in here. Look at the golden yellows and the apples and the celery and the carrots, and you're thinking, that's pretty nutritious. I'd have to say it's very nutritious. So simply enough, what we're going to do is we're going to take some extra virgin olive oil, and we're going to just put olive oil all over everything, just like this. Kind of toss it up with our hands, which is really nice because when you're done, your hands will feel incredibly soft. And we're going to put salt and pepper on this. We've got our oven preheated to 425 degrees. A little pink Himalayan sea salt, which I absolutely love. And I like some really good cracked whole pepper on there. My husband Andy loves whole cracked pepper, and it just imparts such a wonderful balance of the pink salt and the cracked pepper on here. So we're ready to go. 425 degrees in the oven until they're nice and roasted and caramelized. All right, so we've got all of our vegetables. Can you believe that? Are those not beautiful? Now I've got my pan on the stove going, and I don't need any additional oil in here at all. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm putting all of them back into the pan because I'm going to use an immersion hand blender to do this and not a regular blender like a lot of you do. So here we go. Everything just goes into the pan. All that caramelized goodness, and all these vegetables are going to be pureed, kind of like a vegetable smoothie, except soup. Okay, so once we get all of our vegetables in the pan, all those delicious caramelized onions, and if you want to, go ahead and add garlic and things to this, really, and then kind of taste it as you go along to see what it needs. So I'm going to put in some chicken stock, and I have a couple cups here. Now this is deep enough if you want to that you could just use water, but I really like the richness of the soup, and so adding chicken stock just adds to the flavor for me. So I have about 2 cups. I have like one box, like a 32-ounce box. That's actually 4 cups, isn't it? About 4 cups of chicken stock. And I'm going to put in a little apple cider that I get at the Amish market. So just a little bit of apple cider is going to go in there, maybe a cup of that. And then I'm going to take a fresh orange. I'm going to squeeze that in there. Actually, I've got a reamer, so let me ream this in here. I'm going to add fresh orange juice, just a little bit, just 1 orange. Get a nice juicy navel. And the rest of it I'll put back in my pan to make some great aroma on the stove. So we got our orange. Also adds a nice little bit of the juice, and some of this little pieces of the orange go in there. Now I'm going to add a little bit of cumin, about 1/2 teaspoon of cumin to start. Cumin is very individual, so you might not like cumin in here, so I'd say try a little bit first to taste, and if you like it and it sort of enriches the soup, then add a little bit more, but I personally like cumin. Then we're going to add a little bit of cinnamon, about 1 teaspoon to 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. And of course, we're going to put in salt and pepper, and I'm going to bring this up to a gentle boil. Mix everything together, and you'll see that those vegetables start breaking down. And once this gets all cooked and all melded together, then we're going to get the immersion blender. Okay, so we've cooked everything down now. All the vegetables and the broth and the spices are all in here. So now I choose to use an immersion blender. Why is that great? I don't know, I just don't like the act of having to take all that soup out and pureeing it in batches in a blender. To me, that's just an awful lot of work and more mess. This little baby right here goes right in, breaks everything up, purees it down to a really nice smooth richness, and here we go. Okay, I've got everything pureed, so now I'm going to take it back to the stove, put it on a slow simmer, and add a little touch of light cream to it, just to give it a little bit more body and richness. Now, how quick and easy was that? The perfect fall soup. Roasted butternut squash, fall apples, a little cumin, a little cinnamon, a little apple cider. I would have to say this soup is the perfect meal for a cold fall evening. Enjoy.